We're going to look at smooth animation. Now, smooth animation is a little bit hard to wrap your head around, but basically it takes an animation and makes it a little smoother. What does that mean, really? Well, it uses a value and eases in and eases out, and there's a lot of math involved behind it. But basically, they have a simple example, which we're going to modify. And you can take something like this, where you have this, it's actually a rectangle, but we've got the radius, so it looks like a circle, and hook in the keyboard. So as you move using the keyboard, we're just using the arrow keys, that yellow circle will try to chase the red one. And you notice how it's not going in a straight line. It's actually got a curve. That's the ease we're talking about here. Moderately entertaining as well. So let's take a look at what it takes to make this happen. All right, so first things first, we need a rectangle. And we're going to say rectangle, anchors, fill, parent. And let's go ahead and set the color, black. You may be wondering, well, why do we need a rectangle? Couldn't we just do this on the window? Yes and no. So what we're going to be working with is the keyboard, and we want to make sure that we can actually set the focus. So we're going to say focus is true. Now what does focus do? That means when you hit a key on the keyboard that this component is focused, therefore this component will get the keyboard input. There's a lot to it. That's the bare basics. All right, so we're going to make a couple rectangles. We're going to say rectangle. Let's call this rect1. And we're going to say width. And let's go with 50. Height 50. Color red. This is our little red one. And then radius. And we're going to say width. And now we want to do the X value. And we're going to just simply say this is going to be dead center. So we're going to say parent width divided by 2 minus the width divided by 2. And then we're going to center this on the y-axis. There we go. Now we want another one. We could play around with the z-axis, but we're just going to add it here. And here we go. So we're going to say, here's our rectangle. Let's make this slightly bigger. So we're going to say 60 by 60. This one's going to be our yellow. And its radius is also going to be the width. And we're going to get rid of these right here. Save this. Let's run and let's see what this looks like. You notice how we've got our red and our yellow. And this is just kind of hovering, sitting here doing nothing. Let's fix that. Let's make this guy chase this guy. And we're going to say behavior on, and then we need a property. And this is a little bit abstract and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but basically what we're saying here is we want to define some type of behavior on a property. Now the behavior is, well, a behavior. What do you want it to do? It's a bit of an abstract term and it gets very involved. We're going to cover this in depth in future tutorials. And when I say future, I mean this is going to be in QML, intermediate, and advanced. Right now, you just have to kind of take that on a leap of faith. But know that you're defining something's going to happen on a specific property change. And in this case, we're going to say smoothed animation. And then we're going to set the velocity. And we're going to say 100. All right. So what we need to do now is actually change that to y. So we have our x and our y behaviors, which basically mean when x and y change, we're going to smooth that. That's that, let me bring up the original here. That's that smoothing effect. It's almost like a rounding. They ease in and ease out. That's what we're doing here. We're defining that behavior. So when x changes, we're going to smooth the velocity by 100. When y changes, we're going to smooth the velocity by 100 as well. And you can change these numbers and see a slightly different effect. So what we need to do now is actually, you guessed it, set our x and y. So we're going to say rect1 dot x minus 5, and let's go ahead and set our y. Rect1 dot y minus 5. So in case you're wondering where I came up with this magic number 5, difference between 50 and 60 divided by 2 is 5. So it's 50 to 60 is 10, and then divided by 2. We could have done some math. I'm just making it super easy. Save and run. Let's see what this does. And notice how it already starts. That is the behavior, and that's that smooth animation. I'm going to run that again so you can really see. So initially, this is at 0 and this is at 0, but then we're setting it as soon as the scene loads. It interprets that and says, take this guy and get its x and y, which is centered. So because we have a behavior on a property change, x and y, we have a smooth velocity. And let's actually add in 300. Let's see what that looks like. Much faster. Whoa, all right. So let's put this at 50. Save and run. Much, much slower. But now you understand what it's doing. You see how it's not going in a straight line. It's actually easing down. That's that behavior. Smooth animation. All right. Like I said, that gets to be pretty complex, but I think you understand what's going on here. I'm going to set that back to 100. Now we need to actually play around with the keyboard. Now I'm going to take this focus and just highlight it. If focus is set to false, keyboard's probably not going to work. So make sure you have focus true, and that's why we're using this little rectangle here. Then we're going to say keys, and we want on right press, which is our right arrow, and then we're going to say rect1 dot x equal rect1 dot x plus 100. So when we hit the right key, we're just going to take the current and add 100 to it. And we can just grab this and through the magic of copy and paste, do all the keys. So we're going to say on left, we're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to minus 100. And then on up, then we're going to say y, because we're going up, we're going to reduce it by 100, and then on down pressed, we're going to add 100. Now you may be left going, well, wait a minute. I get that when we press a key, we're going to take this red rectangle or the red circle and we're going to modify it. But how is this yellow one actually chasing it? Remember, we have a property binding here. So we have the x and the y are bound to this guy. So as this one changes, this will actually follow it because it's bound to it. It's called property binding. And we have a behavior defined. So when this x changes, the smooth animation occurs. Let's observe. All right, so it's going to ease in. And we're going to just play around with the keyboard here. And now it works. Pretty cool. If you wanted to, you could comment those out and see exactly what's going on here. So as we move this around via keyboard, bang, it snaps instantly. That's the velocity right there. It's also the property binding. So I'm just going to hit the left arrow. Boom. We've modified that position. And what's happened is it's also modifying it here because of the property binding. If we add this in, and I'm just going to add the x, not the y, you'll see this. Notice how it comes in. The y snaps automatically. The x is eased. A lot of theory, and to be honest, it's a bit more advanced than what this series is really going to cover, but I wanted to explain this because a lot of people get stuck when they start looking at behaviors and things like that. So the main takeaways here are we have some property bindings. So when we change one object, the property binding will occur on the other object, and we can set some behaviors. So when a property is changed, we do something.